And what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. It is your boy, Cheeb Ludes. More tier list action. I told you guys I was going to get the tier list done by the end of the week this time. I'm a man of my word most of the time. Not really, but it is what it is. Look, the shooting guard position is uniquely stacked. Like, it's a weird position. I feel like it is one of the most balanced positions in the entire game, except when we get down to C tier. You know what? Instead of C tier, we're just going to call this one mid tier, because the cards in this tier are going to be super mid. So S tier, unquestionable best cards in the game, right? I think I just yelled in the microphone right there, but it is what it is. I'm excited. A tier, just a shade under S tier, and I'll explain why each of these members of this elite tier are here and not in S tier. Inevitably, there's going to be cards in A tier and even B tier that you think deserve to be S tier. B tier, just very good. Most of the community are going to use guys in B tier, or there might be some slept on cards that I think are really well-rounded and really solid. Mid tier, I mean, this is going to be the most mid cards in the world. Like, you could definitely run these guys, like, to a certain extent, and like, they'll score buckets or do a certain thing for you and help you go to victory. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. I would recommend running the B tier guys personally, but you know, it is what it is. There could be a mid tier guy that you love for sure. D tier, that's going to be your outdated goats. You know, all the great outdated cards from earlier this year, they don't really hold up anymore, but they don't deserve to be in like F and trash tier, you know. F tier, I mean, they weren't really that good when they came out, but you know, maybe they have some value. I don't know. In trash tier, I feel like the shooting guard position is going to have the least trash tier members. I feel there's 166 cards in this video, so we're going to speed through some of them, but I will take time to acknowledge certain ones. Ranking between current gen and next gen, multiple play styles, like you already know what it is. So Quentin Richardson, F. Unfortunately, he wasn't that good when he came out. I wish Q Rich would have gotten an updated card this year. I just feel like there's, doing these tier lists, there's just so many cards that didn't get updated at all. Like throughout the year, it's kind of crazy. Dantley's either low mid tier or high B tier. I'm gonna say B tier. Normally Dantley's in trash tier at this point, so you know, at least he was like a little bit better this year. He's still like towards the top of D tier. Like, you can run Dantley and win games. It's not recommended, but like, you can do it. Anthony Simons, Anthony was good this year, but that being said, D tier is appropriate for him. I mean, this is where the Ruby and the Amethyst version would go as well. I just chose this one because it's the highest ranked, so D, or highest gem color, you know what I mean. Austin Carr, mid. I mean, he's definitely better than Dantley and Anthony Simons, but not great. 6'4", decent jump shot, can move a little bit. You know, it's just nice to see different names, you know. Austin Reeves, D. I don't think anyone's tripping, aside from Lakers fans, about Austin Reeves' placement. I could be wrong, but it is what it is. Avery Bradley. This card was actually really good when he came out. This was like a top tier Amethyst, and still is, because they kind of abandoned Amethyst pretty early this year, but I would go D tier. Great defender, can shoot, can attack the basket, just not really excelling in anything. Ben Gordon, D as well. No one really used this card when he came out, and this was the only Ben Gordon that we got this year, which sucks, because Ben Gordon was like legitimately like an A tier shooting guard at one point last year, which is crazy to think about. Benedict Mathurin, B. Benedict is just better offensive Gerald Wallace. Not quite as good on the defensive end, but still a very, very solid card. That base 99 is actually really good. One of the more slept on releases in 2K period. I would put him like mid to low B tier. I think that's appropriate for him. You guys know I rank each card within the tier as well. So the top tier, or the top card in B tier, is not going to be equal to the bottom card in B tier, okay? Just know that, because people inevitably get upset. Endgame Tracy McGrady, S. I mean, I talked about it yesterday, but aside from just a couple examples, every endgame card is probably going to be S tier, right? They're quite literally made to be S tier. That's their whole purpose. So T-Mac's ridiculous. 6'8", he moves. He's got, you know, tray fade. Every single sig you would want him to have. You could argue like escapes and stuff. It doesn't really matter. But base 3, I mean, people on next gen are going to say base 3 is trash. It's just like pretty good on next gen, but T-Mac's T-Mac. Ben Wallace, I would say with the Chauncey Billups dynamic duo, he's like low B tier, but I would put him in like mid tier. Still a great defender, but at this stage, like, come on, anybody will play defense, you know. Bingo Smith, The fact that we didn't get another Bingo Smith card is so disrespectful, but he was such a GOAT in season 2. He's my shooting guard forever. Him and Chris Mullin were just holding it down, dude, the entire season. James Harden. All right, this is going to be a controversial one, but James Harden is A tier. Okay. If you run into a James Harden demon online, they are a different breed with James Harden. James Harden is really, really good. He is. Is he quite S tier? No. Is he like the top of A tier? I mean, no, but like I think he deserves to be an A tier. He's definitely better than Benedict Mathurin for sure. Bradley Beal. I'm going to put him in mid for now because he's kind of mid. He plays point guard, but still a little small even for that. I mean, it's just nice that they finally let Bradley Beal play point guard. They like refuse to do this for some reason. Byron Scott. F. I mean, he's not really that good. You remember how good Byron Scott was for a little bit last year in 2K21? Wow. Takeover Dr. J. I'm going to say mid, and the only reason I'm going to say mid is because, spoiler alert, his other card is going to go in B tier. And I think the card is just badge-wise lacks. I mean, if you have a badged-out version, sure, B tier, but this card came out a long time ago. Derek Anderson, it hurts to admit, but I think D tier may be appropriate. I mean, you can't add badges to this card. He was really good, though. I wish we would have got an upgraded version of young Derek over here. It's got the skinniest player build in the game, dude. Invincible Carmelo. B. He can't shoot from the corners on current gen, but this one plays shooting guard, point guard, which I think really, really helps him out, and I think he's actually like a very, very good shooting guard. Melo is very usable on both gens. He's way better on next gen, in my opinion, but Melo is surprisingly good. Like, you should try this card out if you get a chance. It's actually a really fun card to use. Chris Duarte. D. This card did really hold it down, though. This was a free card that we got in October. Just great for a free card. Cliff Hagen. It's my boy for a while, too. Cliff Hagen was not really that great, but, you know, D tier. It's better than, you know, Byron Scott. I keep wanting to say Brian Scott. I get Brian Russell and Byron Scott's first names mixed up on a near constant basis. Clyde Drexler. B tier. I think this card is one of the more slept on cards this entire year, and we didn't get another Drexler, which is disappointing because this is the first year Drexler was like elite. And I think Drexler is great. So he can play the point guard too. Drexler's fun this year. He is. You know, you're going to need to badge this card up a little bit, but, you know, if you lock in all the cards for him, this and Karl Malone are what I'm still going for in 2K22. Colin Sexton. He was pretty good. He was a decent point guard. I would put him in like D tier. He was definitely good for his time, for sure. Corey Maggette, F. I mean, he's not great, but he's all right. Thunder Dan. Look at all the cheap loot staples over here in D tier. Bingo Smith, Dan Marley, Cliff Hagen, Colin Sexton. Like, these were all my boys, dude. I'm not even kidding. I loved all these cards, and we never got upgraded versions of any of them. Of course. Danny Ainge, trash. Just anytime I can shit on Danny Ainge, I'm going to do it, so trash. Danny Green. He's a pretty good 3-and-D card. He is. I mean, he's not the greatest card in the world, but at the same time, like, mid. He's mid. This Danny Green, once again, another card that I used pretty extensively for a while in D tier. Daryl Griffith. I would say F. He wasn't the greatest card in the world when he came out. He was okay. He was usable for sure. Dr. Duncanstein was kind of decent, but he came out like, what, week 2, I think? David Thompson. I would say mid for now. He's okay. He can handle the rock. He can dunk. He can shoot a little bit. He's got the same jump shot as Oladipo, I think. I could be wrong about that. It looks the same, though. Put him in mid. I think that's appropriate. Max Strus. I hate this card, D. If you want to put him in mid tier on your own list, sure, but this is mine, and he goes D tier. Lou Dort. Dort was still pretty good. When he came out, this card was like 100K, which is wild, you know, to think about. But Lou Dort was solid. I wish we would have gotten updated Lou Dort at some point, because Lou Dort was once again really good this year. It sucks because with the focus on defense, a lot of defensive cards that would have been really good never got updates, like Lou Dort, Rodman, you know, etc. So it's kind of a bummer. Endgame Kawhi, S. Look, I'm not going to bother sorting them in S tier because they're all just opinion based at this point. Like, it just depends if you prefer base 3, set shot 25, what player build you prefer. Everything else is the exact same, so I'm going to put him in S tier. It's Kawhi, you know. Josh Hart. Josh Hart wasn't good, but I mean, for a free card, sure, D tier. Desmond Bane. This card's not half bad, but I would still throw him in mid tier for sure. Devin Booker. I would say he deserves respect for sure, because this is a really overpowered Sapphire for sure. So I would definitely put him in mid tier. James Harden, oh yeah, he gets respect for sure. D tier. This was one of the most overpowered cards in the game at the time. Like my first tier list, I'm pretty sure I put him in S tier. Like this card was ridiculous. Swish Larry Bird. Hell yeah, B tier, dude, for sure. Swish Larry Bird is nasty. I like this card a lot. I really do. This card is tight. Devin Booker. Dude, I hate this card so much. Like, using the card, not bad. Playing against the card, I hate it. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in A tier. This card is actually so ridiculous. I don't know what they did to his rebounding, but he seems to get more rebounds than, like, guys like Kareem. It's the weirdest thing. I'll put him in A tier, though. He is so much better than the B tier, guys. I'm not kidding. This Devin Booker card is ridiculous. If it wasn't for all the end games, I would probably put him in S tier, honestly. Jordan Poole, I'll put him in mid for now. I think people are going to argue he should be in B tier. I could understand that. He's pretty solid, but I've never run into anyone really using him. So, moments Devin Booker. I'll put him in D because he's outdated now, but this card was pretty ridiculous at the time, too. Really should have gave us like an idea of what a late game Devin Booker was going to be like. Devin Vassell. I like this card a lot, but let's not get out of hand and put him in mid tier, you know? He's a pretty good Ruby, but even then you don't really see too many people using him at the Ruby tier. So Dion Waiters, F. It's not great. It's okay. Shooting guard, point guard, Invincible Michael Jordan, S. I'll put him in S because of the point guard eligibility. This card it's Michael Jordan. It's an Invincible MJ with all MJ6. Like, he's ridiculous. On current gen, he's easily one of the best cards, if not the best card in the game. On next gen, very good as well. Victor Oladipo, I would throw in mid tier as well. If he has the Lance Stevenson duo, he might be B tier, but you know, it is what it is. Endgame Kobe, I would say, is S tier as well. It's an endgame Kobe Bryant. I mean, people are going to argue that maybe that's not necessarily the case, but it's kind of difficult to really argue against an endgame card. You know, it's tough to say. I will say the reason I put him in S tier is because he is so much better than his other versions. And I think that makes me want to put him in S tier for sure. Donovan Mitchell, mid-grade. We never got an upgraded Mitchell either, which is kind of crazy. He was really good this year. Amethyst Mitchell, fire. Jarrett Culver, I would throw him in D tier. He's okay. Jimmy Butler, I would put in mid tier as well. If we got an upgraded Jimmy Butler, like an Invincible one, he'd probably be in B, possibly even A tier. But, you know, this card's kind of outdated. Drazen Petrovic, B tier for sure. He's a Sweat Lord's dream, man. Base 3, he moves really well. He's just really good. B tier. Kyle Korver. Okay, this is where things take a turn, and I don't think people are going to agree with me, but Kyle Korver is B tier. Hear me out. He can move. Huge player build. He plays ridiculous defense. If you've ever used this card, you know that for some reason, I don't know if it has to do with his player build or what, but his defense is out of this world. Like, I personally think he defends off ball like better than certain endgame cards. It's crazy. Invincible Dr. J, I would say is B tier. I like the card a lot, but I don't think he's necessarily A tier. I think he's B. If he played point guard, I would put him in A though. Like, I would run him at point guard for sure. JJ Redick, I think this card's pretty solid, but mid, you know. Dante DiVincenzo, he's not really super overpowered as a Ruby this year. He's not 2K20 Dante DiVincenzo. That card was ridiculous, so I'd put him in D tier. Latrell Sprewell, I like the card. He's not bad, but I would throw him in D tier. Doug Collins, the drip god, F. This card was a pain to use. I'm not even kidding. Evo Josh Giddey, I think, is B tier. Evo Josh Giddey is really, really good. Huge player build. Jump shot's not really a huge problem. It's not the fastest in the world. He moves really well. It's just not a whole lot of downside to running Josh Giddey. He's just good. Doug West, I would throw him in D, but I think this is one of the more slept on cards this year. I think this card was really, really good when he came out, and no one used him. Duncan Robinson, big player build, sharpshooter. That's about all. I mean, Duncan's been pretty good this year. I would go, this is probably how I would rank it, right? Let's go there. Boom, boom. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Maybe I'll throw him by like JJ Redick. Dwayne Wade, I mean mid. He's good though, but mid, I would say. Invincible Kobe. I would say Invincible Kobe's B tier. I haven't really liked Kobe this year, and I would say the Invincible Kobe, like this one specifically, would also encompass like Supernova and NBA 75 and stuff too. I would throw him like towards the middle to the top of B tier. Very good. Monte Ellis, had to disrespect my boy once again. D tier is appropriate for him. John Starks, this card's not the worst, but not very good, so mid. Kelly Oubre, I would say, is mid as well. Kind of a bad jump shot, but still usable. Like, you could go and throw Kelly Oubre out in like an all Suns lineup, and he can definitely hold it down. Marcus Smart, someone's going to argue he deserves to be in B tier. I think mid is appropriate for Marcus Smart as well. Endgame T-Mac, yeah, I mean S tier. I'm not a huge fan of the set shot 25 on current gen for forwards, but for guards, it's totally fine. It's really smooth release. I just wish they didn't step over the line if they're bigger. But yeah, I mean, endgame, it is what it is. Paul Westphal, mid. Invincible Dwayne Wade, I think it's B tier. You could argue A tier for sure, and I would definitely hear you out. He feels kind of sluggish, though. I don't know what it is about Dwayne Wade, but I think B tier is very appropriate. I think Harden and Devin Booker are better than him. Eddie Johnson, he's just outdated, so D, but if he was like a little bit more updated of a card, I'd put him in mid-grade. NBA 75, Clay, mid. Endgame Jordan, yeah, this is base 3 Jordan. I would throw him in S tier too. Paul Horizon, yeah, P-Funk's pretty nice. This is my boy. Yeah, Paul Horizon. Invincible Clay, yeah, Invincible Clay is for sure B tier. I mean, Clay's been good this year. I would say he's better than Kobe and Melo. Yeah, I would. Julius Erving, I prefer him, but you can make a case either way. Quentin Grimes, F. Buddy Hield, outdated god, D. Eddie Jones, as much as I like this card, is just mid. Like, Eric Gordon, F, yeah. Evan Fournier, definitely F for sure. Emerald Luka Doncic, I would say, is D. I'm not a huge fan of this card. I think on next gen, he's a really overpowered Emerald, so maybe you want to put him by Devin Booker, but I think D is appropriate. I actually like this Norman Powell card a lot. I've been using him because I used the all Portland team quite a bit. And I think this card's a lot better than people gave him credit. He's decent. He dunks over people, man. Evan Mobley, D. I think this is one of the more overhyped cards this entire year. People thought this card was fire, but his Galaxy Opal power forward was better than him initially anyway. Invincible Kobe, I would still throw in B tier. The reason for it, I don't think Kobe's very good at the point guard position outside of the endgame one, so I'd put him in B. Gary Payton, yeah, D. Mitch Richmond, he's okay, I guess, mid. Nobody really ran him. Gary Trent, he's not terrible, just a bad jump shot, so I'd put him like over here somewhere. Yeah, Gary Payton's kind of good, though. I'd put him behind Evan Mobley. George Mikan, he's not horrible. He plays okay at the center. I wish he played the 4 or the 3, honestly, and then he would have been a lot better, but mid. Giannis, people are going to be upset about this, I'm sure, too, but he's just outdated. If you have a badged up Giannis, sure, B tier, but he can't really move like that. His jump shot's just on quick, which isn't horrible. Giannis' base is great, and he doesn't have a whole lot of badges, so I'm going to put him in mid tier at this point. Grayson Allen should not be on the same tier as Giannis in anything ever, but this is my team, so mid. Michael Redd, shout out to Michael Redd. This card, really wish I would have got this card when it was popping, man. Hal Greer, F. Hershey Hawkins, F. Like, all these cards are too good to be in trash tier. Isaac Okoro, I actually like this card a lot. I'd put him towards, like, the top, like, right behind Mikan, I would say. Like, the card's a lot better than you would expect. Isaiah Ryder, I still use this card for limited. Well, I mean, I don't really play limited right now, but just up until, like, the last couple weeks. And Isaiah Ryder, kind of a bucket. I'd put him by like Luka, honestly. J.R. Smith. This will go for like Dunktober JR, Invincible JR, and Origin. I would say A tier. This card is ridiculous. He is. I mean, he's the best rim running point guard in the entire game. At the shooting guard, he's phenomenal as well. I just feel like there's no downsides to running JR. He's lightning fast. Jump shot is ridiculous. Like, I think it's really good. I think it's base 49. Great. Jalen Green, low B tier, I would say. I like this card a lot, probably more than normal people would. Steve Smith, D. Thanasis, I think this card was a really good Sapphire, so I'm gonna put him in mid. Joe Caldwell, where's my land of guys that I used? Where are they all at? Harden, bingo, yeah. I used Caldwell for a little bit. Jamal Crawford, D. He's okay. Boo Knight, I don't think he's quite on the tier of like Thanasis and Devin Booker, but he was like pretty good. I'd put him by like Luka, Dante, etc. Walter Davis, I think, was good. He's probably the best card in D tier, but I think he belongs there. Supernova, James Harden, mid. I would say probably by like Victor Oladipo, Isaac Okoro. Zach LaVine, I would say, is mid as well. You can make an argument he's good. I think maybe B tier is appropriate if you have a badged up version, but if you have a standard version, I would say mid. But yeah, he's kind of outdated too. I don't know, weird. Jason Richardson, D. Jaylen Brown, I would say, is probably like mid. Like Jalen Noel. This card wasn't horrible, but like F. Nah, I put him in D. He was okay. All right. DeMar DeRozan. Oh, yeah. DeRozan obviously gets to be in B tier. DeRozan's really good, of course. Jeff Malone, speaking of T-Mac knockoffs, D. Jerry Sloan. This card's kind of D. I still use this card sometimes for fun. Like, he's okay. D. Endgame Luka. Not quite as overpowered as the Invincible one. I don't know. This one's tough. I mean, he's a perfect card, obviously, with set shot 25. So it's tough to say. I mean, I still think Luka player build. Ugh. Can I say for certainty that this Luka is at the same tier as these guys? For now, I can. I'm going to keep him here. I might drop him down to A tier, though. I don't know. Jerry Stackhouse, D. Shout out to Stackhouse. Set shot 25, Michael Jordan. Yeah, because if I got the two Jordans in here that have different jump shots than Invincible, like Luka only makes sense. So, Rudy Fernandez. I love this card. Jim Paxson. Yeah. Throw him in trash. A couple white guys down here. Endgame JR is tough. I don't think he's any better than the Invincible JR. For that reason, I'm going to keep him in A tier. Just because I feel like this card is kind of a downgrade, actually, from this JR. I actually prefer this JR. I don't know why. It is what it is. Maybe I'll drop Luka down since Invincible Luka is so much better. But on current gen, this card is honestly not as good as the base 3 one anyway. So, yeah, I'm going to drop Luka down for sure. Karis LeVert, F. Dunktober Gary Harris. I hated this card. Trash. Joe Dumars. D. He might be the only dark matter in D tier, honestly. Del Curry. Not bad. I would use him over Joe Dumars. That's where I'm basing the rest of mid tier. Will I use that card over Joe Dumars? And everyone in mid tier, very resounding yes. CJ McCollum. Can't say for certain I would use him over Joe Dumars. Joe Johnson. Absolutely I would. Mid. For sure. Very good. Johnny Davis. I actually like this card a lot. I would throw him towards the bottom of B tier. I think this card is phenomenal. Clarkson. D. Junior Bridgman. This is the only Junior Bridgman we got this year. He's usually like a Kobe clone, but like beefier, you know? Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Hot take time. I actually think this card is A tier. This card is stupid. I mean, it's a Kareem that plays shooting guard small forward. I still think he's better at the small forward position, but like he can move. Jump shot 21's good. Like, there's really no downsides to running this card. He needs some badges, but that's about it. He brings you something that the rest of these guys just couldn't bring you. Also, he moves very fluidly. Invincible Kawhi. Yeah, I'm going to put him in S tier. I think this card is that good, for sure. I think, like, his dribble sticks are totally fine. The Ray Allen base is great. It's just the traditional Kawhi card, so I think he deserves to be there. Keon Johnson. Trash. Kevin Huerter. I actually like this card a lot. I feel like I put another diamond in here somewhere, right? Did I not? Yeah, Rudy Fernandez. Kevin Huerter's good. Lance Stevenson. I think this card's a lot better. I can't say for certain that he's worse than Jalen Green. I think he's actually a little bit better, so I'm going to put him in B tier. Larry Hughes. Respect, but D. Allen Houston Evode. Yeah, I mean, he's like mid. Very mid. Derek White, also very mid. It's okay. Malik Sealy, I think is... I would say he's better than the guys in mid tier. Like, he's better than Joe Johnson, Zach LaVine, Julius Erving. So for that reason, I'm going to put him below B tier. Luke Kennard, that was my boy, D. Manu Ginobili. Yeah, B. I was going to put him... I don't know where I was going to put him, but right here in B tier is appropriate. He's, like, pretty good. Marcus Smart, yeah, he gets the love of mid tier for sure. Marquise Johnson, never mind. Joe Dumars, you got some company down here in D tier for sure. Michael Cooper, this card's kind of fun, but D. Denzel Valentine, F. Denzel Valentine. Shooting guard, small forward, Invincible Jordan. Okay. I'm going to throw him in A tier just because this version is much better due to his ability to play the point guard. So For that reason, I'm going to put him here, but I'm going to go ahead and re-rank it as such. So we're going to go Devin Booker, JR, Harden, Luka, Kareem. Yeah, that's how we're going to rank that. Mo Peterson, this card was ridiculous when he came out. Anyone had him. Nishan Highland. I think this card's kind of good. Like, I'm going to put him in mid-tier for sure. Nick Anderson's my boy, D. OJ Mayo, D. Pascal Siakam, that's tough. Siakam's a tough one. I'm going to put him in B tier. I think this card's actually really solid. At the shooting guard position, I think he's really good. I would say he's like a better version of like what Giannis does, basically. Ray Allen, Evo'd Ray Allen deserves to be here too. Very good. Very solid. This one's controversial too, but I love this card, so I'm going to put Reggie Lewis in here in B tier. For sure. I'm going to put him by like Drexler. Yeah, I would rank it as such. I like Reggie Lewis a lot. Some people don't. I personally like him quite a bit. This Reggie Lewis, D. Wish I would have got him at the time. Same as Michael Redd. This one hurts, but I have to be objective here. Rex Chapman is D. Richard Hamilton is also D. That kind of hurts as well. Ron Boone was so good in the early game that I have to put him in D. He was ridiculous. Ronnie Brewer, not half bad, D tier. Sam Jones, that's my boy. Where is the group? Yeah. Cliff Hagen, Nick Anderson, Marley, Caldwell, Bingo, Sam Jones. It's a bunch of D tier for Cheap Loot's favorite players. Why did I refer to myself in third person? Doesn't matter. Shannon Brown, not too bad, but like, I would say D. You know what? I don't know, dude. That's tough. I can't say Shannon Brown's worse than like John Starks and Desmond Bane, actually. Moncrief, if you have a badged up version, he's probably mid tier, but I would say D is appropriate. Everyone was running him for like a week when he first came out. Terrence Davis, he's like D. Terrence Ross, very mid. Yeah, he's probably like the best card in mid, but mid. Terry Rozier, F. Tim Legler, F, but like a respectable F, you know? Tony Allen, straight trash. Straight trash, probably the worst card in this game. He can't shoot. Invincible T-Mac, I think Invincible T-Mac is B tier as well. He has some movement issues on current gen, which I think, you know, keep him from really being like a top tier card. Like if he just had Scottie Pippen behind the back, that's like all it would take instead of whack ass Wiggins behind the back. I would say that he is A tier, bordering on S tier on current gen. But on current gen, dude, that Wiggins behind the back hurts him so much. I swear it really does. And I'm not usually a person that reads into like dribble states too much, but God, it's horrible. I try to love T-Mac the way he was created. I can't do it. Trey Mann, D. Troy Daniels. Everyone thought this card was so good when he came out. D. I mean, Tyler Hero. Where would I rank Tyler Hero? I would rank him in A tier. I would rank him very high in A tier, as a matter of fact. I love this card. I think he is one of the best shooting guards in this entire game. I'm not crazy. He's not on the level of S tier guys, but A tier, very appropriate for him. Vernon Maxwell, once again, that's my boy. Walter Davis, I mean, this one's like F. Couldn't shoot, so that was kind of an issue. Wesley Matthews was like D tier, and Will Barton was really good, but he has a weird jump shot, so I'd put him in D tier as well. So let me know what you think of the list down below in the comments. Who should have been higher? Who should have been lower? Where were your favorite cards ranked, etc., etc. Small forward tier list will be dropping soon, and I'll be live on Twitch tonight, so definitely come check it out. Peace.